And we're live.
Hey everyone. Hey everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us this afternoon. It's 3:30, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Today we have Lori Chestnut joining us from the OSDE, and she is going to talk to us about Oklahoma's secondary transition. If you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll be monitoring the chat. And then I will turn it over to Lori and let her introduce herself, and then she will get started.
All right. Thank you so much, Rachel and team. So, as Rachel said, I'm Lori. I am the program manager for the Pathways to Partnerships grant, and I help out with the secondary transition programs here at the State Department of Ed. And I've been here in the special education services for almost 10 years. So, I will celebrate my 10-year anniversary in April. So, before that, I was a special education teacher primarily in urban districts around the Oklahoma City metro, so Norman, Middle, Moore, and Choctaw-Nakoma Park. And I actually spent most of my time in middle school, and I actually am one of those people that I love middle schoolers. I love their sense of humor and their view on life. But I also found that I also enjoy high school. So every stage of child development is fantastic. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about secondary transition. And today's objectives are that transition planning, too often we think of it as just something that they do in high school. But really, I want you to understand that transition planning is a lifelong process, and it's important to start those conversations early. We're going to talk a little bit about Oklahoma's secondary transition framework, become familiar with the predictors of post-school success, and know where to find key transition resources on Plan Your Way OK, which is our new one-stop shop, everything for transition. So as you know, an hour is not enough time for you to learn everything you need to know about transition planning. I have my master's degree in transition planning, and I still learn something new every day. So the takeaway from today is I just want you to think about one thing that you didn't know before, or one thing that a new resource or something that you can implement right away. And then just really, the biggest thing is that you know how to get help and where to go to ask questions and where to go to find resources. So this is kind of my soapbox. Transition is not something extra. So if we think about the purpose of education and the purpose of special education, we talk a lot about free, appropriate public education. But the second part of that statement in the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act talks about preparing our students for further education, employment, and independent living. So transition planning is the purpose of education for all of us, whether you have a disability or not. That's the purpose of education, is to help us live our best lives. So as I mentioned, transition planning should start early. Does anyone know in the chat when transition services is required in Oklahoma? When does the team have to start that transition plan as part of the IEP? Feel free to put your answer in the chat or a guess. So the IDEA says that transition services must begin by age 16, but in Oklahoma, we start a little bit earlier than that. So our state policy says that transition services must become part of the IEP by the beginning of ninth grade or on or before age 15. So for most of our students, that means that that official transition plan is going to be developed during that eighth grade year. But the team can always start that process earlier. And there's a lot of things that you can do with your students that are part of transition, because everything that we do is transition. Again, it's not something extra. So transition planning is an ongoing process. And if we want to improve our student outcomes, which is all why we do what we do, we need to plan across the lifespan and not just one stage. So it's not about that paperwork, it's really about that process. So today I'm going to share with you some of my favorite resources. Again, please don't think you have to like take notes on this and remember it all right now. I'm just introducing you to it, and all of these links, they're live in the slide deck and you can go back and access them. So hopefully this will work. I forgot to test this before we started, but I'm gonna try to share this website so you can see it better. Is that showing up for everybody?
I can see it, yes.
Yes,
Okay,
I can see it.
perfect. So this is one of my favorite transition websites besides ours, which is Plan Your Way Okay. This is the Virginia Commonwealth University, and they have put together these simple things. This is a great, easy to follow guide for, it's designed for families. So you'll notice from the language that you'll see it addressed to like parents or family members, but it's also helpful for educators. And we are working on one that's going to be similar to this, and it will be on Plan Your Way Okay in the next couple of weeks. But it's organized by grade levels, and it talks about, like, I just put the example of 3 to 5th grade and some of the things that families can do and some of the things that we as educators can do that are tied to transition. So using positive language and beginning to have conversations with your students about their disability. You don't have to use the word disability. You can just talk about learning differences. Or you can use the word disability. So what the research shows is that individuals that learn differently, they recognize they learn differently, and they know that they learn differently. And when you explain that to them in words that they can understand, it is more helpful and more beneficial than trying to like not talk about it. And, like we have some parents sometimes that are hesitant to talk to their child about disability, but you would be surprised how many students will say, like, well, I don't have a disability. And then you say, but you have an IEP. Yeah, I have an IEP, but I don't have a disability. And what happens too often is that when students graduate from high school and want to go on to college or career tech, they don't understand enough about their disability and enough about how to advocate for what they need. And so they don't access the services and supports that are available at that post-secondary level. And then sometimes they're not successful. So the earlier we can just have these conversations and talk to our students about how everybody learns differently, if they have questions about their learning, answer them, be very positive, operate from the strengths perspective, talk about how they learn best, what really helps them. Anyways, I really like this, and it goes all the way from, it's broken down by pre-K all the way through high school, and then even into some skills. And it just kind of, if you have a chance, look this over, because I guarantee you there's going to be some things on there that you may be like, oh, wow, yeah, we're working with getting along with others all the time. Well, that's transition planning. So hopefully this resource will be helpful to you, and very soon we will have a similar resource on Plan Your Way Okay. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. Okay, so start now. Transition planning, start now. I took this slide from another slide deck because I just love this picture. I think it's so cute. But there are so many benefits to starting having those conversations and starting transition planning early. We want to make sure our students have the skills they need to be successful. And starting early, it just gives them more opportunities. It gives parents more time to learn about the different options that may be available for their child after high school. Um, I don't know about you, but I don't always remember or follow through on something the first time I hear it. So if every year we're having these conversations and we're starting to connect them with parent groups and organizations that might be able to provide some services after high school, that's going to give them more time to process it and follow through with applications and things like that. Oh, I got to go back for a second. We have any Post Malone fans in here? How about Lainey Wilson? If you know how to use your reactions, I'd love to see your like hands up or love. Anybody like Post Malone or Lainey Wilson? Are we seeing any reactions, Ben? I can't see everybody.
We're seeing a few on the screen.
A
Few hearts,
few?
few thumbs up.
Okay. So I'm kind of obsessed with Post Malone, and I really like his duets that he's done lately with the country singers. Um, there's a song called Nosedive that Post Malone and Lainey Wilson did together, and you may be thinking like, what does this have to do with transition planning? It's a really cool song, and sometimes parents they want to protect their child. They don't want them to experience any failures. You just want to fix it. I know that from a parent perspective as well, because my daughter has disabilities. So, we just want to do the best we can for our child. But we have to build those trusting relationships with parents and help them to understand that our students need opportunities to make choices, and sometimes those are going to be bad choices, but we just want them to make those choices in a safe space, like not studying for a test and you get a bad grade, or speeding and you get a ticket. I'm still learning about that. But that song Nosedive, it says there is beauty in the nosedive. And what I take away from that is that we grow through our successes and also our failures. And it's just kind of about like enjoying the process and enjoying the journey and learning from your mistakes. So if there's any fans out there, check out that song, or even if you're not a fan, you might check out that song and let me know what you think. I just really, those lyrics really resonate with me. All right. Any questions so far about that? Have you seen that resource before? Do you think that that might be helpful in the work that you're doing now? Possibly sharing it with your parents, or you kind of checking it out and seeing. I really like how it's written in plain language and it's not overwhelming.
No questions as of yet.
Okay. Well, the next thing we're going to talk about, I'm really, really excited to share this today. So this is something that I mentioned, the Pathways to Partnerships grant earlier. This is the framework that our team has been working on to better support secondary transition planning in Oklahoma. So it is called Oklahoma's Secondary Transition Framework. This may look familiar to you. Does anybody recognize these areas? So we were very intentional when we developed our framework, and we set it up to really mirror the MTSS, so the multi-tiered systems of support. So the three the way I look at transition planning, again, because it's really complex, so I try to break it down into parts that make sense. And so the data-driven transition planning, and that's where that's all the requirements in the IDEA, what you have to do to develop that transition plan. So this is the framework. And again, don't worry about taking notes. You're going to have links to this. Let me try to make this bigger so you can see it better. I'm not going to go over all of it, but I'm just going to kind of show you how it's laid out. So these are our guides, and this is the framework. And so you'll see the data-driven transition planning. This is where we use assessment results to drive the transition planning. And so in these boxes are just the main points of transition planning. And then what we did at the end of each section, we linked the resources for those sections. So you'll see, sorry about the scrolling. Can you guys see that? So at the end of the data-driven secondary transition, you'll see the resources. So these are all the resources that are available on Plan Your Way OK. So if you need help writing IEPs, you can go to one of these resources and find out more information. Then the same thing for the collaborative systems and sustainable teaming. One thing I learned really on in my career is that transition planning, you cannot do it by yourself, and it's not meant to be done in silo. So it's not meant to be done by a special ed teacher the night before the IEP, right, trying to come up with goals. And I've been there, and that's why I feel like I can say that, because I was that teacher before I learned more about transition planning. But it's really meant to be a team approach, and we have a guide all about how to start a team and what a successful transition team looks like. And so if you have questions, if you've never heard of a transition team, or you've never heard of the Oklahoma Transition Institute, that is our transition conference that's held every fall. And you have a chance to be a part of a transition team and learn from each other. And so it's like a community of practice, but you can visit other programs, you can learn from other teachers. So it's a really positive experience, and the conference is a really fun event. So definitely follow up with that if you haven't heard about that. And then the last part is evidence-based practices. So that is, what do we teach? What skills are important to teach, and how do we teach them? So you guys are getting kind of a sneak peek of this because it is just getting ready to go live on our website. So it provides a clear roadmap. It's student-centered. It's got all kinds of training. Some is online training. We also have regional trainings in person. We have videos, and there are things on there for family members and as well as educators. This is just a close-up of what I was showing you of the transition plan, of all the resources. So our framework is designed and based on the predictors of post-school success. So as a teacher, I didn't have time to read research, but I knew it was important that I was using evidence-based and research-based strategies. So all of my guidance, all of my training that I do at the department, it comes from INTACT, which is the National Technical Assistance Center on Transition. I don't expect you to remember that. There's a slide at the end. But the researchers looked at all of the research and the studies of what was likely, what are the skills and activities that if students participate in high school and elementary and middle school, they have a better chance to live their best life. So they have higher rates of success with education, training, and employment and independent living. And so they identified these predictors, and now we know the skills that we need to be teaching our students to help them live their best lives. And so, unfortunately, even though there have been improvements, students with disabilities are less likely to have positive outcomes compared to their peers without disabilities, and we have the power to change that. And I really truly believe that, or I wouldn't have lasted in this in this area as long as I have. So we look at evidence-based, research-based, and promising, and this may seem familiar to you with if you have been like with NTSS. Some of this language is the same. So evidence-based has the strongest record, research-based has a sufficient record of success, and then promising, there's that shows some success. So, and it just means more research is needed. So a predictor, as I was saying, it's an experience or a task or an activity or instruction to learn a skill that leads to better adult outcomes. So when we're trying to decide what we teach our students, we want to be looking at these things. So our director, Sherry Coates, that is our main focus right now, is improving outcomes. And she has said, if it's not about outcomes, we're not doing it. That's the same with this. So we have a predictors guide, and the predictors are organized into these clusters. The first one is collaborative systems of youth support. So you can look across at these predictors, for example, youth support, and we can see that it's promising for education, it's research-based for employment, and it's promising for independent living. So in our predictor guide, there are definitions of each one of these. And we also have an asynchronous module that you can complete if you would like to learn more about them. I love this. My thing is self-determination, 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 and goal setting. And so you can see here that those are predictors. Another big important predictor is paid employment and work experiences. So research shows that students who have some type of paid or even unpaid, like an internship, an unpaid internship, if they have that work experience while they're still in school, they're more likely to be competitively employed when they leave. And competitive employment means that they're getting paid at least minimum wage or better, and they're working in an integrated setting, which means they are working with individuals with and without disabilities and people with other differences. We don't have time to look at all of these, but I just wanted to show you the basis of our framework. And then I wanted to talk to you about some of the ones that when you don't know where to start, kind of you can get a lot of bang for your buck with these. So here's another resource, and this one is from NTAC-C, the National Technical Assistance Center. I also really like this resource. So what it has done is it has taken all of those predictors, and again, you see the importance of starting early. So all the way over here in pre-K, These are just some ideas of some activities. And these were actually, this document was created by special education teachers for education, for special education teachers. And I'm going to skip to this self-determination here. And you can see, what is self-determination? Well, simple things in pre-K that students can do is make choices about what they want to wear. Do you want to wear this shirt or do you want to wear this shirt? You can let them pick from two or three things. What happens if you ask a 4-year-old what they want to wear to school and you just give it open-ended? What might happen? Anybody teach littles or maybe have littles of your own? You get in like flip-flops and princess dresses, right? When it's 30 degrees outside. So.
Yeah, the comments are saying princess costume.
Yes, yes. So, you can always do for those young ones, you can always give like a forced choice, 2 or 3 options and then expand from there. Even our students with significant support needs, they need to have a voice, behaviors, communication. And so, giving them choices too. Some students may point or, you know, have a switch or a visual card, yes or no, but just think about those opportunities for your students to have choices. That's self-determination. That's transition planning. But I really like this. So I hope that you find this document supportive as well. Okay, we talked about this. What's it look like? I just put some things down. Again, if we start having these conversations and we start focusing on teaching our students goal setting and teaching them self-determination skills, by the time they're in middle school or high school, they'll be actively participating in their transition planning process and leading their IEP, because that's really what we want to see. So I've thrown a lot at you. How can you incorporate the predictors into your transition plans, and how do we incorporate those into the goals and services? So where do you start? So I mentioned getting the most bang for your buck. So I recommend starting with self-determination, things like goal setting, behavior, having that self-regulation and that self-awareness and appropriate behavior, appropriate social skills, that's self-determination. That fits in there. You're working with your students on that already, I'm sure, for some of your students, but you may not think about that being transition, but it is. And then career awareness and career exploration. And there's so many fun things you can do to help your students learn about careers and explore what's out there. We have a saying like, you can't be what you can't see. And that's very true. So just exposing them, whether that's through videos, that's through guest speakers, that's through dressing up, reading books about different jobs and then letting them have like a dress up day with their career. And yes, we always have princesses. My friend Marissa that works in the department, her son was going to be a dinosaur when he grew up, when he was 4, and that's okay. He'll figure it out. Maybe he's going to be a paleontologist. So, all right. Well, we're going to look at a case study, and please know that because of our limited time, this is going to be a very, this isn't obviously not the entire transition plan. This is just showing you some examples of how the predictors can fit into your goals and services. So this is Justin. Justin is a middle schooler, and he is just starting the formalized transition planning process for his job. He would like to be a collision repair person. So his post-secondary goal, so where does he want to work after high school, is that upon graduation from high school, Justin or I will attend the collision repair program at the local Career Technology Center. Okay, that came from a student interview. He didn't word it like that, right? But we do in Ed Plan, we do put those in first person because we do want our students to be involved in the development of their goals. So Justin has some needs. One of his needs is that he's not too good at recognizing and being able to explain what he's good at and the areas that he needs support. He needs some support and behavior, and he doesn't always recognize that. So he was given the tag, which is the Transition Assessment Goal Generator, and it showed that he had a need in strengths and limitations. These are some of my favorite resources for identifying your strengths, your preferences, your interest, and your support needs. So this one's from I'm Determined. Fantastic website. Highly recommend it. You could have them draw things. You could cut out clip art. They can write on there. They can dictate to the teacher or to perhaps a para. But the more you talk about these things, the more they're going to start to understand more about themselves and how they learn. So this is just one example of a one-pager. This next one I'm not going to click on, but this is a young man named Jamal, and he's actually sharing his one-pager. So if you go to I'm Determined, you'll see some really great videos of some students practicing their self-determination skills and being involved in their transition planning and sharing their one-pager. So I highly recommend that. So we know Justin has a need. He needs to identify his strengths, his preferences, his interests, and his needs. So this is just an example of a goal for Justin. And I just put 2 on there to kind of show you some different things. So annual transition goals need to be SMART. They need to be measurable. I love using one-pagers. It's a great way to start those early self-determination skills. You could use a rubric to measure this. You can use just the one-pager itself. I like to be very specific of, what are the expectations? I always want to be positive. So if you'll notice I said 6 strengths and then 3 preferences, 3 interests, and 3 needs. I'm not going to read these to you, but you can go back and check those out and see if you think that those would be helpful. So the annual goals must come from the assessment results. So for these goals, we had input from him, we had his post-secondary goals, and we had his result from his tag assessment. Goals must be based on current data. All right, I mentioned he has a little bit of a self-regulation problem. So sometimes he gets angry and he doesn't stop and think, and he can, say some inappropriate words or get mad. express these. So we're just working on his self-regulation and learning to, stop and do a strategy before he says something or does something that he is going to regret. So this data is simply a behavior log. So working with your students on their behavior, that's transition planning. Another one of my favorite resources is, again, from I'm Determined. This one's called Alex Shares His Good Day Plan. And this video is a high school student sharing his good day plan. And then this is the resource. I love, love, love this. I don't know if at your schools you do the check-in, check-out. Uh-oh, this one may have broken. Oops, I apologize. I will have to go back and connect that to the blank template. But you can see here, can you see that okay? I can make it a little bigger.
Can you make it a little bit bigger?
Yeah. Is that better?
Yeah, well, the words are still hard to read a little bit. But
They
I can see
are okay.
the website.
Let me make it a little bigger. I can blow it up. I have a big screen. I can blow it up
That's
as big
good.
as we need it. Is that good?
Mm-hmm.
So this is goal setting, but this is like tied to behavior. So it's what do I need to have a good day? So if you think about yourself, what is something that you need to have a good day? If you'll just put your answer in the chat. If you see any of those coming in, will you guys read them to me? I need to lay my clothes out the night before because I'm not a morning person. I do not like waking up to an alarm. So I need to have as much as I can prepared the night before, and I need to have a good cup of coffee, preferably a sugar-free vanilla latte. That's what I need to have a good day. Does anyone want to come off mute and share what you need to have a good day or put it in the chat?
Okay, so I'm seeing my coffee in the morning, some time to process, Coke Zero, a few minutes before my husband wakes up, time to catch up with my dog, time in my Bible, protein first thing, and I get a run down. Prepping the night before, water first, coffee after breakfast, coffee and a quiet start to my day, soft music in the morning, tea, waffles, or lasagna. I need coffee and coffee. I think I got them all.
I love it. I love it. I appreciate the person that said water. You're who I want to be when I grow up. Like I want to be that person, but I'm like coffee first, but I really have been trying to drink more water. I know that's better for you. So thank you for sharing those. I love that. That quiet time is important too. So thanks for sharing that. So you talk through the student with, what do you need to have a good day? And then, is it happening now? And then what seems to happen to make it a good day? So it's like that. What happens? Does it happen now? And some things, sometimes there are things that the students can't control. So you really focus on the things that they can control, like setting their things out the night before, or making sure they have breakfast, getting to school early enough to have breakfast at school. Because for many of our students, if they don't eat at school, they may not, unfortunately, really, they may have something, but they may not get like a full meal. So if we can, talk to them about these things and follow through and reward them for having that good day, talking to them about if they didn't have a good day, what happened? What can you do different next time to have a good day, it really can like rewire their brain. So if they've, experienced trauma or, had a bad, like it's just helping them like rewire to focus. So this is a really, really powerful strategy and a powerful tool to teach them self-regulation. And then you can work with them on those, maybe it's like taking, when you start to feel that it's that anxiety building up, it's just stopping and doing the turtle or taking 3 deep breaths, whatever strategy is helpful for them. And that's another way you can incorporate self-determination and choice making into that, is teaching them some different strategies and then letting them choose which strategy is most helpful to them. So just small things like that can make a huge impact. Okay, so we're going to tie this self-regulation strategy into Justin's employment annual transition goal. So given his good day plan, practice with his self-regulation coping strategies, he'll use a strategy when he becomes upset, frustrated, or angry. And then it goes on to say, that measured by observation and a behavior log. So we're not doing something completely different, completely unrelated to his needs. We're tying that in because unfortunately, what keeps a lot of our students from being accepted into post-secondary programs is communication and sometimes behavior. It keeps them from working where they want to work or living where they want to live or learning where they want to learn. So it's really important to work on those strategies. All right. Um, One more. I know we're running a little short on time. I always have this problem because I love this stuff so much. When Justin, his goal right now, again, he's in 8th grade, he wants to live in a rent house with a roommate. So he is like a lot of middle schoolers and a lot of high schoolers and even some adults, a little bit unrealistic about what it takes to live independently. He can make goals, but he can't always make those plans to follow through with those goals. So he took the AIR self-determination assessment and we got some data for him on that. Oh, sorry, I accidentally clicked that again. So this one is similar to the good behavior goal, but it's just focused on the goal plan, and it can be used for any goal. I'm not sure why it's not getting bigger. Hang on. Oh, here we go. What's cool about I'm Determined too is they have little videos that explain the tools, and then they also have videos of students showing how they use the tools. So you can see this is a goal template, and the students write their goal, or you can do whatever accommodations or modifications needed to help them. And then they list their steps, and then what are the outcomes. So that can be, it can be tied to academics. You're already teaching them academics. You can teach them goal setting tied to their academics. So maybe it's reading a book by themselves, or maybe it's making oh, what is that? Accelerated reader. Do they still do that? Or a reading goal. Maybe they're trying to read so many words per minute. Whatever it is, you can teach them goal setting tied to those academic skills, or it can be something, outside. It can be tied to their interests. Like if they're into sports, it can be a sports goal. What I like about this template too is it has a place for people who can support me to reach my goal. So self-determination doesn't mean they're going to do everything by themselves. Independent living doesn't mean they're going to do everything, live completely independently. It's also part of recognizing when you need support and who are those people that can provide that support. So this is just a goal setting template that I wanted to share with you that I found helpful when I was teaching. And then there's his goal. And he's going to share an annual transition goal. He's going to share how he achieved it at his annual IEP meeting. And here's some other resources that I put in for goal attainment, goal setting and goal attainment. So you can check those out.
Lori, it says you're muted.
Chatting away. Was I muted for very long?
I think for a little bit, like 15 seconds.
Well,
It wasn't that
you
long.
guys, I apologize. I did not know how I hit that. What I was saying is before we end our time today, I want to show you Plan Your Way Okay, our new transition website, just so you can see how to access all of those transition resources that I shared. So I am really sorry about that. I was just chatting away. Oh, it looks like my computer's gonna. No. I think I have too many tabs open. It's saying it's almost 4:30. I'm done today. All right. Okay. This is the website I was telling you about. So you'll see pages for students, families, professionals, businesses, and we put all of the events on here. If your district is hosting a transition fair or there's a
Lori,
conference
real
that you
quick,
know about.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Lori.
You're
I'm sorry
fine.
to interrupt.
You're okay.
The sound was really broken up and we were getting some comments, so it wasn't just on my end. Benjamin, do you have any recommendations or?
Stop sharing your screen and then reshare it.
Okay. Is that better? I also turned my camera off.
Oh, that helps. Yep.
Seems to be
Did
better.
that help? Okay, cool.
We're getting thumbs up that it's better. Okay.
Ooh, okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
So sorry.
No,
No,
you're good.
I'm glad you did. I appreciate it. So this is Plan Your Way, and I was just explaining how we post events on here. Because of accessibility, we cannot show like a month at a time. But if you are looking for like a transition fair in your area, we do have our events linked at the top. So you can go up here to the search feature and you can type in transition fair, and then you'll see the events as well as any other resources that might have to do with that topic. It's really important to connect your families with the agencies that can help them provide services. So if you go to the professionals page, you'll see our resources, and then you'll see information about the agencies that provide services. And also, there's a lot of really cool things that happen in the summer for students where they can practice those transition skills. One of those is the Youth Leadership Forum. Here's information about Department of Rehabilitation Services, which is the agency that helps individuals with disabilities get jobs. So there's lots and lots and lots of resources on this page. If you go to Plan Your Way OK and you are looking for something and you cannot find it, or you have feedback, please email us. Down at the bottom of every page, you can click on this email us and send us an email about what you would like to see. You can also do that if you need additional support. So I'm going to stop sharing and open it up if you have any questions for me.
Not seeing any questions yet.
All right. I'm so sorry I'm laughing about the yikes. The sound is terrible. I'm going to put my
Oh, there's a
email
question.
address.
I do have a question from one of the attendees. Which transition tool do you like the best for high school students?
Wow. Are you, when you say tool, are you thinking a transition assessment? If you're talking about a transition assessment, my favorite one are for students with mild disabilities. My favorite assessments are the same assessments that the district uses for their individual career academic plan, or ICAP. That is a graduation requirement. And I'm putting this in the chat. Most districts in Oklahoma use the OK Career Guide or the OK College Start. And so I like to use the same tool that they're using already for their ICAP because we want to have alignment. So that's my favorite one is OK Career Guide or OK College Start. And then I also like to use some type of self-determination assessment like the TAG or the AIR. And I'll put this all in the chat. The ONET, I saw someone said the ONET. I love the ONET as well. It's a fantastic website. If you're teaching younger students, like middle school, and your district doesn't do ICAP or career plans for middle schoolers, I highly recommend the ONET too. It's hard to choose though. It really just kind of depends on the needs of your student. If you want some more information, we could do a whole like training on assessment. So just shoot me an email and we'll send you some specific transition resources. Thank you for the question.
I think these are great questions. We appreciate everyone attending today, and then this session will be posted on our YouTube page. And then Lori, you did send me the presentation, and I know you included a lot of resources and links. So do we feel like we need to send that out to participants? Is that something that you're okay with? And Benjamin, is that doable?
I can email everybody sometime this week with the presentation.
Okay. Do you think that would be beneficial, or do they just need to go to the pages that you
No, that's
showed
fine.
everyone?
Oh, that's fine.
Okay. Okay. All righty. Well, thank you everyone for attending, and we'll go ahead and end the session if there aren't any more questions.
All right. Thank you all so much for being here, and sorry about the sound issues.
It was fine. We worked through it.
You can mute me now.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Enjoy your evening.